What is up, y'all? It's your boy Aniki coming at you with the chapter review for the latest My Hero Academia, chapter 298. So if you haven't read that chapter yet, ask yourself the same question on my shirt. Go ahead and vacate, read the chapter, come back. This isn't how you want to find out about these events, of that I can assure you. For those of you that have already been here, you know that chapter reviews are page by page breakdowns and analysis. For those of you that are new, welcome aboard. I hope you can enjoy and stick around for the whole video and get to enjoy what I'm trying to bring to the table here. Now, diving right into this because a good amount of stuff happened this chapter that I found really fascinating. So, first off, want to just talk up. We immediately start off with the twice flashback. He's talking all that mess at in the end of MVA, and then we finally get the realization of what those words truly meant, which is that him creating a clone of Redestro allowed for Redestro to keep a clone in the hospital bed and do a public recovery before going back to working for Detnerat and doing all these other things to help them gain clout and traction. This is kind of smart. It's called back to the start of the Paranormal Liberation War arc, even where just at the beginning of the arc, Ujiko had a clone of himself working in the hospital the entire time that they were unaware of that would just communicate between the two. This is a nice trick that the villains pulled here. I don't think Twice himself actually had to make that clone, or if he did, I think they eventually replaced it with a clone that was duplicated via Monchan or one of those other type of beats. I don't think Twice was locked into having a Redestro clone walking around all the time just based on the rules of his quirk. So one of the main things that I love about this though is that, like I said, when Roger was on stream, we always after a major arc cut away to the Hero Safety Commission and we find out their ideas or what they're going for. Anytime we have this big turning points in the story, we got those especially emphasized in provisional license exams because that was the post Camino incident and seeing how they wanted to handle things there. We see the Hero Commission is the ones who sent Hawks on his mission. And one of the main things that I love about this, though, is that we also get the return of Sleepy Mira, the character who ran the provisional license exam and complained about how he couldn't get enough sleep. But basically, Redestro's clone ended up wilding out and took out several members of the Hero Safety Commission, it looks like, where I don't think the woman is going to live. And I'm pretty sure he killed at least 4 or 5 other suits. When you look closely at the scene, you can actually see multiple bodies strewn throughout the room that he more than likely killed or at least severely maimed. So there's a good chance that Mira is never getting that sleep that he so heavily desires. And the Redestro clone kind of goes out basically explaining, we won. We already won. Because one of the things that he called him out is you guys came here and you did it where's the justice system? All this stuff you've built up a litigation system, a true legal system where you're supposed to go through the right channels, and they just jumped a bunch of people. So there you go. That's technically, you could argue, presumed guilt, even if they had it on good word. That does create some questions here. And the thing that I like about this specifically is that whether or not the villains won or lost is a big debate that we had on the Church of MHA episodes, especially between Rex. Remember Rex, Flo, Roger. They were all I feel like the villains lost. Horikoshi is basically telling you with this chapter, no. The villains won. Because all for one, during last chapter, broke into Tartarus at around 8:34 p.m., and him and the cronies and all those people were out by 9. Used to wait till after 9 to send free text messages. You don't even got to do that. They didn't even have unlimited texting when they got out the jail. Okay, that's a really old joke, but I'm positive my 25 plus viewers will get it and find it a little funny. But the important thing here is that not only did All For One pull up on Tartarus, he then pulled up on you only get to see 3 prisons. He pulled up on 7 prisons and broke people out of at least 6 of them. So we see between 3:06 a.m. to 3:55 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. He's just running through these facilities, breaking people out. We actually see somebody with a bunch of spots on them, raiding with a near high end right next to them. Looks like that one's got a cannon on the back. We see that basically what he's been doing is forcing other people who worked in security, all these other things, to fly him around. That doesn't look like Seiji Shishikura's dad in this picture that's depicted on page 5. So I'm pretty sure that Seiji's dad is dead now. all right, cool. You flew the helicopter. Either he's dead now, or that wasn't him at the end of the last chapter, and now it is what it is. Uh, they tried to use biometrics to keep people out, but it didn't work out that way. One of the main things that I really like is that Vestige, for one, is talking inside of Shigaraki's body about how everything's been handled, taken care of, yada, yada, yada. And then what you find is that Spinner is straight up like, yo, you aren't Shigaraki. He recognizes that this is not Tomura. And he specifically mentions like how they played video games together, and he knows like, nah, you are a different person in his body. To which All For One, just tells him like, hey, don't worry. Like, look, bro, it's fine. I'm here for him. Nobody respects Tomura's will more than me. And he's like, this body still needs time to be perfected, to rest and be perfected. But once it is, our desires will come to fruition. Now, there's a couple of things that go into that. Either he thinks that Shigaraki's body just needs a little more modification to handle it, or he genuinely is going to somehow body hop with another quirk. I have no idea how that's going to work. Or he just really wants his Vestige to like take over, and in his eyes, that's good enough for him to like be the next one. But you could also posit that he's gonna complete Shigaraki, and he's hoping that Tomura beats him as the final test. We've been talking about that. The rule of two with Jedis. You could have it like the fact that we get this page emphasizing the two of them. Could it just be playing into the fact that it's a possession and there's two All For Ones? Yes. Could it also be playing into the rule of two and how one of them needs to go? Also, yes. And one of the things that may or may not be an indicator of how hard All For One actually wants his Vestige to be taken over is that if you look closely, you can tell that the hand that he's wearing isn't fully on his face anymore. And that seems to be one of the things that helps him tap into that anger that allows for All For One or Vestige for One to take control of his body. So that's another thing to take into consideration going forward. We jump 2 days later. This is an important time skip in the story narratively, not because of the fact that 2 days is such a big time skip, but because at the end of the day, like, it took that long before our protagonist even woke up. So we don't know what's been happening in these past 2 days. We know that all these jailbreaks happened. We don't know what's going on. And that's kind of emphasized where after Bakugo wakes up, and he figures out where Midoriya is, and he's like going off to go talk to him about the situation or whatever. But we cut away to Aizawa. Before we cut to Aizawa, we cut to Gran Torino. Gran Torino's in the hospital bed. He's missing a foot. I don't know if he's going to live or not right now. I'm leaning towards him dying, and I'll explain towards the end of the video. But he's talking about Shimura, which the thing that still bugs me is that we could be getting an All Might and Gran Torino conversation. But what I need cleared up is if Nana is his lover secretly or not. Because it kind of bugs me that he's so formal and still calls her Shimura if they were an actual couple. But there's some arguments that maybe Gran Torino is, the father of Kotaro and was with Nana the entire time and they were a couple, blah, blah, blah. But we don't have proof of that. So, and with the other thing about that is like, if Gran Torino was really a guy who became a hero, made his hero wife be a single mom because he wasn't willing to work around or be involved like that, then turned around and made her give their child up for adoption, then turned around and let her die, then turned around and raised All Might to be a hero while leaving his son in foster care, then turned around and didn't tell Toshinori for 30 years straight, only for his grandson to pop up and still not tell him until his deathbed. It's a little crappy, but it's also very much in line with how old people feel like they should keep secrets and you gotta preserve honor of the family and all kinds of other weird things where it's I shouldn't tell you that because he's maybe worried about the way All Might would see him. But now the idea that heroes hurt their families to save other people is really on the nose here. If he's gone through all of that just to be a hero temporarily be a hero and quit, so you gave up your family for being a hero and then you didn't keep being a hero, that is wild. And yeah, he got back in the game, but it shouldn't have taken Deku getting one for all to get him back in the game, if I'm being honest. If I give up my son to be a hero, I'm staying a hero. Unless I'm looking like he is right now, I'm not. Nah. So Gran Torino got some questions to answer because he might just be a deadbeat dad that was still around. Currently, I'm kind of leaning towards he might have been like the brother of Nana's husband that died. That would make it make a lot more sense for him to not be as involved and just wanting to help her out, because at that point, it's I want to hang out with my friend and avenge my lost brother who died all for one, and not, you got the parents and stuff, I'm going to go out and save the day. Bye, hun. So yeah, just things to factor in. Aizawa talks about his kids because we get to see that, he's missing a leg or whatever. Nothing too crazy. And then we move over towards the crowd of people again, trying to get in there. We're in Shoto's hospital room, and we get confirmation that, like, yeah, everybody in the class is aware of what's happened now. They're trying their best. We see the Todoroki family, like, sneaking in and, like, being harangued and asked about whether or not they are a part of the Todoroki family. They don't actually, this is actually one of those good things, because Natsuo, Fuyumi, and Rei aren't celebrities the same way that Shoto is. So them going to the hospital can lead to questions being asked, but it does not guarantee that people know who they are specifically. Because it's not like Dabi's video was also like, yeah, bro, and here's pictures of my family and how they are now. So, like, that's not something that they needed to necessarily worry about. But as everybody's asking these questions, we see that Endeavor is still in surgery. From a combination of multiple puncture wounds to the fact that he was overheating, which might likely would have caused some brain damage, to the fact that he got just fucking smacked hard as shit multiple times. Pair that with the fact that when Makia stood up, he did a flaming uppercut to charge at him, but I didn't see anybody catch him before he fell either. So he also now has a bunch of fall damage. Endeavor's in a pretty rough spot. There's a lot of things building up towards like how Endeavor's like really injured. Then we cut away towards this nice little half and half image with like Endeavor and Shoto. And Shoto's kind of thinking about back when Star Servant was like, yo, this guy's going to cause the end of us. And he was kind of like, what's up with all that? Only for it to turn out that, Dabi sent Star Servant. But then we get this factoring in of him like thinking about all the things that Dabi has done and like how long he's been around, watching them, seeing the stuff that they were going through, and how he's dedicated himself towards hurting Endeavor, even though he could have bridged that gap. And Shoto starts to realize how the same way that he was filled with rage and kind of easily dismissed Inasa and caused him pain and hurt, Dabi has taken that to a whole other level and is just hasn't cared about society, hasn't cared about even his own allies at this point. If he can destroy Endeavor, he's happy. That's what it's about. And Shoto realizes that his dad actually can't bring himself to hurt, to hurt Toya, to go through with this. And he says, Dad can't do it. I have to be the one to handle my brother Toya. The thing about this that is especially appealing to me is, one, it's the return of Dark Roki. Two, it's Shoto accepting the burden of having to take out his brother, not necessarily being lethal to do it. His mission isn't like a mission of joy. It's one of responsibility and burden passed down to him from the previous generation. Kind of like how Deku has inherited the issues with Shigaraki and All for One from All Might. Shoto has now inherited this conflict from Endeavor and his mistakes. And Bakugo is likely inheriting Gran Torino's role as the protector of One for All holders, because Gran Torino has been there for at least 2 generations of One for All users, technically 3. And depending on how much time he spent with Nana, you can argue, like, for sure 3. And depending on how Nana got the quirk, maybe he did know the 6th user too. I don't think it goes that far back, but that's 3 generations. You've done enough, Torino. Shoto's family arrives, and the big important thing here is that Rei is here. That means Rei has decided to leave the hospital. This has been built up since that note that she wrote Shoto. I believe it was during Endeavor Agency. It might have been even before that. But she wrote a note to him, and it straight up said, I'm getting closer to being ready to live with you and Shoto. Like you, Natsuo, and Fuyumi. I'd like to live with my children again. So she's here at the hospital now. That could mean that since they've gotten a new house, that Rei has started to live there. But we don't know that for sure. And we also haven't ever actually gotten to see like a lot of Shoto and Rei conversations. So there's a lot of build up in this one chapter where we're gonna see like the Shoto Todoroki talking to his siblings and his mom. Well, maybe not talking because apparently his throat's been burned because he got cooked. Which that's a small detail that I actually like Horikoshi including. Sticking to that biology. Same thing as when he had bullets hurt muscular because it's still muscle fiber and those are bullets. If you get lit on fire all around you and you inhale it, it's gonna cook your throat and you're gonna have a hard time breathing, talking, etc. going forward. And then we get one of the most important pages, like last 2 pages here, which is them like trying to stop Bakugo from charging into Deku's room. And we get the reveal that Deku is confirmed to be in a coma and he's shown no signs of waking up. It took Bakugo 2 days to wake up. Shoto was already kind of active. Deku is out. Now, there's a couple of possibilities that really segue from here. One of them being that I can see us getting an arc dedicated towards Mirio, finally getting to be a hero. So, like, those of you who are interested in, like, Mirio should have been the main character, this might be your moment where we get to see Mirio tackling villains and all this other stuff, especially because every main character is benched right now. Endeavor, hospitalized. Bakugo, hospitalized. Shoto, hospitalized. Deku, hospitalized. Eraser, hospitalized. The only like main roster characters that we aren't getting to see this chapter or people who I think could really be stepping up in these next couple of arcs because they've been kind of missing from the foreground of the story for a while, are like Ida, Tokoyami, Shoji, and Uraraka. I think out of Class 1A are going to really get some shine in this upcoming possibly year that we're experiencing the manga, because one of the things that we could end up with is this takes place over a couple of months in story time where they don't necessarily have, like, Deku is unconscious for months and they take over, they become more prominent, they go ahead and do this, and that's partially, I think it'll partially help with power clipping, just to keep them a little more relevant because they have more time to train and like not be as behind as Deku is naturally just scaling up and up and up. But then you also factor in that with the amount of damage Deku did to himself, it's about time. He was in fevers and stuff when he just broke his arms back for his training, breaking like all 4 limbs, plus like we don't know how much internal damage he possibly took because he also took those blows from Shigaraki. The main thing that I see kind of coming out of this is that I think he needs to get at least a bit of the history of One for All and All for One. He doesn't necessarily need a buff. He doesn't even necessarily need to get like any of the quirks unlocked. But I think we are finally going to get some of the mysteries of what's been happening in the past finally revealed to us, and that's going to enable us to understand the workings of quirks and vestiges just a little bit better, especially One for All and All for One and their dynamic. And it might even help us figure out what All for One's actually after, because if Izuku's going to be wandering in the vestige world for a while, then we also run into the One for All is clearly connected to All for One. These vestige worlds are blatantly entangled, so there's a chance that we get Deku and Shigaraki meeting in the vestige world and having some kind of conversation, even though they're both locked away right now. The Origin Quartet is on the bench, so I'm leaning towards we gotta make sure that if we're benching Shoto, if we're benching Bakugo, or maybe we bring Bakugo and Shoto and like Deku, and it's just Deku and Shigaraki that are ultimately locked out and benched in like Endeavor, who's probably not going to get to be a hero anyway after this. So yeah, the chapter has a lot going on and a lot going forward, in my opinion. It's just mostly build up towards what's coming next. So let me know what you guys think is coming, what you see on the horizon for these next couple of chapters, where you think the characters' arc directions are going to be going, because I've actually really enjoyed this chapter. I enjoyed the discussions we had, even though today was a shorter stream. And just in general, I think there's a lot of potential in this early phase, especially if we do genuinely have an arc that's going to be, once again, pulling out from Deku and focusing in on more and more other side characters. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm all ears, eyes, whatever, however you want to like say it or see it. I kind of want to know. I want to know what more people are thinking, especially because I have like almost every relevant MHA word muted on Twitter now, just to make sure I don't get spoiled, because y'all ruthless out here. So yeah, let me give me your takes, give me your opinions. Let me know what's going on. How's how's it going in your world? What do you think of these developments? How do you feel about Deku's coma? How do you feel about Bakugo actually trying to be a friend? Because the way I look at this is Deku's gonna be unconscious. Bakugo's gonna talk to him about his feelings and the ways he failed and how we've gone from, hey, you should just jump off a building and die if you want a quirk, to you better not die, because he cares that much about Deku and is finally at a point where he's expressing it. So yeah, that's actually a perfect segue to like have All Might give Deku some privacy, and then when All Might goes to talk to Gran Torino can finally die, and he'll maybe reveal to All Might, if he is the grandfather of Shigaraki, that is the case, and then we get to see from there how it goes, because in the same way that it would also be very fitting, because he warned Toshinori that if you can't see him as the villain, it's going to be an issue. If he made that sacrifice and was like going to do it all as atonement and keep it quiet, that's kind of raw, still kind of deadbeat though. So yeah, you guys have a good day. Let me know what you think. Anaki.